The presenting sponsor for OnEducation is Classcraft. We're excited to announce Classcraft's new story mode, which makes it easy for educators to harness the power of stories. Episodes 1 and 2 of Season 1 are ready for you and your students to play today, and it's completely free. To learn more about Classcraft and the new story mode, simply visit classcraft.com/oneducation.
And him and Alice Keeler were like, they suck. Everybody that's using them is sucky. And let's just burn them all.
Let's be fair. I don't think that that's what we said.
Yeah, you did.
Friends, welcome to this special edition of Dig It or Ditch It. So we are here with our friend, our Justin Timberlake, Noah Geisel, for our 100th episode. This is episode 100 of OnEducation.
Woohoo!
I couldn't think of a more appropriate thing to do than this. I was excited about it instantly, and so we are digging or ditching it on episode 100.
Yes. Can't believe it's episode 100.
Yeah, congratulations, y'all. The OnEducation has been on it. 100 episodes. Hats off to you.
Were you working on that one all day?
You think it takes just one day to come up with stuff that good, Mike?
Solid material.
That was weeks. I've been saving that up since episode 32. Just hoping we would get to this moment.
Waiting for the right time. Fantastic. Well, Noah, we threw a gauntlet down. I don't know if you're rising to the challenge or not, but we don't know what's going on. This is how it goes. Noah is going to ask us some questions. We don't know what the questions are, and he's looking for hot or at the very least mediocre takes on these questions. We want to see what's up, digging it or ditching it. So take it away, friend.
That's right. And for this 100th episode special, we are going to go on theme. Everything should have something to do with 100. And we're going to start off, Mike, by just ditching the at least lukewarm takes. We are zeros or hundreds for this dig it or ditch it. We are extremely hot takes, whether we are digging or ditching. And so we're going to start off, Glen, because Mike might need to ease into the extremely hot takes. The 100% emoji, dig it or ditch it.
100% emoji. I'm ditching that thing. I have so many other emojis that I use on my list. I'm just opening up my phone here. I don't even know the last time I've even used the 100%.
You know when you use it, when it comes up and you don't want it to. The 100% emoji is trash.
Is that a ditch, Mike?
Yeah,
it's a hard ditch.
Hard ditch.
I hate that thing. This is a great one because I friggin' hate the 100% emoji. Probably mainly because I say 100% a lot, like in that way, and it always comes up, and I don't want it because it looks stupid. Can we just make it look better? Even are you pulling it up so you can see what it looks like?
I'm just looking at it right now and going, I don't even think I've ever used it, but I've seen other people use it. Yes, I agree. I'm ditching it.
So dumb.
I actually have a garbage can ahead of the 100% emoji. I don't know when the last time I used the garbage can, but I have one here on my list.
Perfect. That'll be when you use it. You use the 100% emoji and then put the garbage can after it to remind you.
And clarifying question, Mike, what about when the 100% emoji is used in triplicate?
That's a big number. What is that number? I don't know math.
Well, it's just 3 100s in a row. I think it's more of an emphasis thing than a bigger number.
Still trash. Can we just make it like it's a design thing that it's an ugly emoji? Can we do a 100 and then a percent sign? Like, is it that hard? How hard can it be to make a proper 100% emoji, for Christ's sake?
I'm looking at it right now. I actually always thought it was $1.
Right? You don't even know what it is. It's the stupidest
I always
thing.
said I was like a teacher, and your teacher's underlining. I'm a fan of the 100% emoji. I agree. I am digging it. There are definite better emojis. There are better gifts, and it's a classic. Like nobody ever misinterprets what did you mean by that? They know what you mean with the 100% emoji.
No. When they say, "What do you mean by that?" they actually don't know what you mean.
All right, well, we're going to move on from that softball, Mike, and go to another one. How about giving 100% of students the same grade on a group project? Dig it or ditch it, Mr. Washburn.
Ditching it. I might have dug it a couple years ago, but I'm ditching it now. One of the things that I've learned, ironically and disappointingly since I've left the classroom, is that there are way better ways to assess group projects than assessing the final product. I talk about this actually quite a bit, and we've had actually our friend AJ Giuliani on, and he is brilliant at
He's
talking
great.
about this. Oh yeah, I mean, great is an understatement, and he blew my freaking mind when we were together and he started talking to me about the grid rubric and about project-based assessment. And I was just like, the things that the things I didn't do are embarrassing at this point. I missed so many opportunities to do such a better job than I did. And this is absolutely one of them. So I would have dug it in the past, and I would be absolutely ditching it. Hard ditch now. Hot take, hard ditch.
Definitely a hard ditch along with Mike. And I think that's the reason why, if you ever have, I know that some teachers complain about students, as far as when group work happens, that one student ends up taking over the whole entire project. Yeah. And that's because they know that their grade is dependent upon kind of this group functioning at a high level that they may not even have chosen their group, or even if they had. Yep. They end up taking over because they know they want to achieve at whatever it is, the level that they want to achieve, and they are bringing everybody along with them. So they're taking over, which ends up happening quite often, especially if you're evaluating their projects in this manner. So 100% for every student, no thanks. Give it up. Though I'm exactly like Mike. I'll admit I did it in the past too. And maybe people are currently doing it. Just evaluate why you would actually want to do that, and then think about the consequences of just that action and how you can actually change it. And there's a bunch of resources, for example, AJ Giuliani's resources, that you can see how could you do it differently.
That's really interesting, Glenn. The way that you framed it is actually kind of for totally different reasons. Where I come in at a dig, and I'm a new dig on this. I think before I would have been a hard ditch because I was that student who got stuck doing all the work for slackers because they were going to get my grade or I was going to get their grade, and I wasn't going to let that happen. But I recently saw last week actually an article saying that how like the number one job for local employers right now, white collar employers in Denver, Colorado, that they cannot fill is project managers. And that's across industry from construction to tech, that they are desperate for project managers. And when I think about, the student who, is sitting there as a teenager thinking it's really unfair that all these guys are getting the same grade as me when I'm doing all this work, it's also kind of like what it's like in the real world, right? I mean, like when they were just in our own PLCs. I mean, how often have we sat there and as a PLC, we were kind of judged, as a single organism, not as individuals. And so in some ways, I think it's good preparation for life. Like I said, I'm a brand new dig on this, but I am digging it, even though there's probably lots of really great reasons why it's terrible pedagogy.
I love that you're a dig. That's a big surprise.
We're splitting the votes here this week. Let's stick on the 100% theme with absolutism, saying that an educational website or app is 100% bad.
I just saw this today. Oh my goodness. And it drives me so damn nuts. I freaking hate that. I hate it. I'm an absolute ditch that you would say this one thing is the worst thing in the world. And Mike knows that I've done this to him too, where I went ballistic when he was talking about smart boards. And him and Alice Keeler were like, they suck. Everybody that's using them is sucky. And let's just burn them all.
Let's be fair. I don't think that that's what we said.
Yeah, you did. And so anytime you go to that extreme edge, there's no conversation there. Number one, first of all, to go ahead and come in at, but really you gotta gauge like, okay, do you really, have you seen this at the highest practice? Like whoever's using the specific tool, what are they using it for and for what purpose? And then if you can see all of that and it's still garbage, then I can say, okay, good. But they just throw out, there's an app out there. And today there was one out there and I saw Noah's response to it. And I was like, I couldn't agree more, because I hate when people just destroy on one thing. Like they're like, this thing sucks. And if you use it, you're a sucky teacher too. What do you think, Mike?
I'm disappointed that you guys both saw the same thing and I didn't. I don't know what you're talking about. Listen,
I can name out the app if you want.
So you're digging the FOMO, Mike.
I am.
The hot take is
I am experiencing some FOMO here.
Class Dojo. You ever heard of that one, Mike? You know Class Dojo, right?
Yeah. Is that the thing that people said was 100% terrible?
Yes. And I was like,
Class Dojo isn't 100% terrible.
And I could actually have told them if I had the energy, and I didn't at that moment, told them how I used it in the world language classroom to basically talk about the different skills that students were actually using during class, that I really wanted to, not that I wanted to promote those specific skills.
Right. Some people don't use negative points in Class Dojo.
Yes.
Right?
Great work. Great job. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And of course, like any other tool, it can be used in a not good way too. Go ahead, Mike. Sorry.
Of course, it can be used in a not good way. And, I've seen, maybe I have seen the example recently that Class Dojo came up where, there was a very bad use case of Class Dojo that popped up on Twitter in the last couple of days. So maybe I'm thinking of the same thing. And, that isn't the classic example of how Class Dojo is used. Not even close, to be perfectly honest. Most people use Class, because I've seen a ton of this, that a ton of people use Class Dojo to reinforce positive aspects of the classroom experience and don't even use negative points at all. And, but anything in absolutes is bad. Anything in 100% of anything
the 100%
is bad. Including the 100% emoji. Anything in 100% is bad. Even our strongest, and I'm pretty strongly opinionated politically, to say the least. And even then, I very rarely speak in absolutes, even politically. Even about like Donald Trump and stuff like that.
Listeners, it took 100 episodes for it to come out, but Mike Washburn cares about politics.
Really? If you didn't get it. I'm ditching absolutes, pretty seriously, because I think that any firm position on one thing in a way that's intractable or unmovable is bad for sure.
Let's have a quick riff. This is not necessarily a dig or a ditch, because you just touched on something around the absolutes that I think is a future topic, but let's hit it now. And that's around like teachable moments versus banned for life. And, I think that there's a lot of moments that we see happening, especially in social media, where, there's a pretty quick jump to, which is leapfrog the teachable moment and straight up like this person or this thing is trash and needs to go.
Yes.
And so how do we take the conversation we've been having around absolutist thinking around an educational app, website, resource to, maybe a moment in time or behavior that we react to with absolutism?
Oh boy. There's always an opportunity to talk to people in a way that makes the disagreement or the issue something that's more approachable, something that's more centered in a conversation than just these like firm positions about it being bad or good or that kind of stuff. And something came up today even where I think that the approach, the whitewashing of an issue with just one brush, like covering over everybody with the same stroke, is bad, and it's dangerous, and it's toxic, to be honest. And I think that, the more that we start to realize that, we're all people, even online and on social media, we're going to have hopefully more opportunities to stop and evaluate the way we're speaking to each other, and realize that even online there's an opportunity to have a good conversation about why people think this way about something, and then maybe get to a common ground or a place where we can at least understand each other and move forward together in sort of a more amicable way than these 100% fixed positions.
And just to bring back a previous episode, I think we talked about this, where part of this is how people are not including the originators of the conversation in another conversation, if you know what I mean. So in other words, they're not at somebody, they're not having a conversation with the original thread. They're pulling the original thread of whatever it might be and then starting their own thing of the people that are like-minded. So it's never a discussion. It's just like, here's what I'm going to list. And basically people saying, we don't even need to include whoever the topic is that we're talking about, whether it be a specific app or in some cases, specific people. We're going to have this side conversation and have it over here and not ever let them know that we're talking about them, in a negative way, so that there is no discourse, there's no conversation. And that just continues the cycle of this toxic nature.
Thoughtful as always, guys. You're really both just having my mind racing. I had come up with that question a few weeks ago. I became privy to a situation at a school where some students had raised a concern about a teacher who had called out a student who was an exchange student for not speaking English in class.
Oh, wow.
And, I think that, and the students handled it really just admirably. They went to administration. They actually said, we like this teacher, but we don't feel comfortable or safe, with this type of talk happening. And, all I could think about was, if that were to hit social media, there would be calls for that teacher's head. Right. And that, like, we go straight to this absolutist place, and here's this teacher who turns out, despite, if we take almost to Mike's point, about people being 2-dimensional versus 3-dimensional, right? As a 2-dimensional, like single moment in time, it looks like, this person needs to go. Right. But, if we, as Mike said, ask questions, if we take it as a teachable moment, here this teacher, my understanding has had, a chance to have a conversation with higher ups as well as with the kids, came to learn and understand, what was problematic about it. And now things are back to being great in their class. And, and so it was this teachable moment, but only because there was the grace of, not allowing that absolutism to creep in. So I'm kind of glad to hear you guys, that we're on dig on ditching the absolutism. Let's go to streaks. So it's your 100th episode. That's quite a streak.
Woo.
How do we feel? Dig it or ditch it for recognition of streaks? And I'm bringing I'm bringing that to you as guys who I know are big into gamifications, if that helps with the lens that I'm bringing to that. So recognition of streaks, dig it or ditch it.
The only lens I'm thinking about, and then maybe Mike will be able to turn it into something. I'm thinking about just sports, as far as, repeat winners, repeats, those types of streaks. And I'm trying to think of the lens of how you would view it inside of, an educational lens. And the only thing I can think of is things that are negative, like standardized testing or something like that. For me, I mean, in my lens, it's like it's a negative lens that I'm thinking of. So what do you think, Mike? I can't bring it to.
My wife was bragging about her Calm streak. So Calm is the meditation app.
The app, yeah.
And they so there are two apps that you think of when you think of, well, one app that you really think of when you think of streaks, and that's the Snapchat streak. Right?
Oh yeah.
But apparently,
and listeners, if you're not familiar with Snapchat, Mike is not referring to a disappearing picture of people streaking.
So that might not be the worst.
You get recognition for having consecutive days of sending and receiving snaps with the same user.
You do.
Just an important clarification, depending on what levels of background knowledge people are bringing.
And I still don't know how to use Snapchat. It's funny, actually. I think that was like one of the first questions you ever asked on Dig It or Ditch It was about Snapchat, and I still don't know how to use Snapchat.
I'm still digging it.
Yeah. But Calm is the meditation app, and they have streaks. And so that seems like a pretty good streak, is, how many days you can go doing a nice, cool, relaxing meditation. That's not the worst streak to have in the world. I think that, having a Snapchat streak with 20 different people is pretty terrible, but, having a meditation streak isn't so bad. So I dig streaks. I understand the concept, certainly, of, from a gamification perspective of encouraging engagement, encouraging user participation, and retaining of users. We would love for everyone who's listening to have a really awesome OnEducation downloading streak. Please do that. And if
stickers for everybody.
If you want us to create a little app for you to record your streaks, listen, if anyone can listen to, this is episode 100, if you can get to episode 200 and verify that you've listened to every episode of OnEducation, I'll send you something. We'll buy you some swag if you can verify every single episode. There's a streak. I have just turned Dig It or Ditch It into a promotional opportunity, because that's how I roll. I just gamified the pod.
Exactly. I could actually see it though, Mike. What you were talking about is a streak could be used to develop good habits.
Sure.
So my current streak right now is
hot yoga one day.
No, it's not better than that. Is 2 weeks is actually 15 days of eating at least one big salad per day. So I was going to go crazy. Usually I'd go to the extreme edge of stuff, and I'd say, I'm going to do this, whatever it was. And then it's really tough to actually make that goal come true. But this was a simple thing. But it's now a streak. It's like, oh, got big salad, eat it up, boom, got my streak going. Something positive that I wasn't actually doing before. So a little change in your life that can actually, you can carry it forward. So
I haven't had a drink in 10 days.
Hey.
I feel like that's an okay streak. This is the longest I've been without having an alcoholic beverage in 15 years.
Oh, I was going to say, I was wondering what was going to start in the beginning of that. 15 years.
No, so there's streak. There are definitely good streaks.
I love those responses. The one that I'm surprised didn't come is perfect attendance streaks.
Oh yeah.
Duolingo streaks. But I also I'm not gonna lie, I thought Mike was gonna be a ditch on that one. It sounds like we got dig on that. One last final one, guys, and this might not necessarily be 100 unless you think of just in monetary sense,
unless you take it to 100.
Exactly, you take it to 100 pennies. It's $1, sometimes $2, sometimes even more. Loot boxes. Dig it or ditch it.
I'll let Mike go first on this one. Loot box.
See, this is because Glen actually likes loot boxes. I know he does. I'll be honest with you. As someone that has, at least allocated a little bit of disposable income towards gaming, in whatever way I choose to spend that money that month, if a loot box is going to save me time doing something that's monotonous in a video game, I actually don't mind it a little bit. I have money to spend. It's a choice. You do not have to necessarily spend your money on loot boxes. Now, that being said, so this is a total lukewarm take because it's complicated, trademark. Loot boxes are predatory. 100% predatory. See how I'm like, I integrated the 100%?
Of the entire argument.
I see what you did there.
And I did absolutism.
Yes.
And all the things I'm ditching. Loot boxes are absolutely predatory. They prey on people's inability to have self-control. They prey on things like streaks, to be honest. Wow, I'm integrating all of the dig it or ditch it's into this answer. And that's why they're being regulated. Like, there's a reason why governments are taking a stand against loot boxes, especially the EU. They're going hard on loot boxes because there is toxic, kind of destructive financial behavior surrounding them, and like financial literacy, which no one learns anymore in school. So kids are just obsessed with the reward structure of a thing opening up and there being fireworks and yay, I just got a new skin in Fortnite. And that dopamine hit is strong. That's a powerful, powerful force in gaming. So I dig the benefits of loot boxes, and I certainly am ditching the way that they're currently constructed.
So Mike just took every side of that one.
Yeah.
I'm going to dig it in that context of what Mike's talking about as far as it being part of games. I think it's just our responsibility as parents to be able to go ahead and let our kids know, like, what is the value, like what you're just talking about, Mike. I don't know if a school is the place to teach kids about money. It should be something that I learned here at my house. And it should be something that I actually show my kids how to go ahead and go about doing those things. Though I could definitely see what you're talking about. I mean, I didn't learn anything good from my parents, and I think you've shared something good as far as I didn't learn anything good that has to do with finances.
No,
and
not at all from my family.
But I don't know if I would have listened at all at school level if someone was teaching me as far as the economics of whatever it might be, especially with the pull of something like this, where you're talking about as far as video games. Inside of video games, I think that it's a great tool, like you just said, for people that want to go in and spend some money to be able to get ahead. And like, for example, in Hearthstone.
There it is.
Where you could play the game for free and grind your way towards being able to play the game competitively. So it's time versus money. You're using those two things. So the money accelerates the time that you have to invest. So it's one of those things where you have to talk about those things really, and you just take a step back. I'm going to teach my sons, and I am doing this currently, as far as what is the value of this thing called money, and what does it actually mean? How do we actually earn it, and what does it take to actually get this? And then why you want to go ahead and make sure that you make good decisions about how you decide to go ahead and spend it. But that's another conversation. And I'm not even sure if that's exactly where you were headed, Noah, as far as loot boxes.
I'm heading wherever you guys want to take it. And I love where you guys went, and I'm with you on digging it. And my caveat, of course, is that, and Mike and Glenn know this, but I'm the geek who reads about video gaming but doesn't actually game. And so I have spent $0. I've never even seen a loot box. But I'm hardcore digging them because I think that's fascinating that, like 20 years ago, there was no such thing as like the App Store, right? They just created this entire economy that didn't previously exist. And look at all the innovation and things that opened up. So just from an innovation and where we go, in creating the jobs, that will exist in the future and in a world of outsourcing automation, I think things like loot boxes that are clearly, very hot are one of the right answers. to spark that innovation. So I'm really digging it for that reason. The predatory thing bothers me less than the debate about whether it's gambling with people who are under 18, especially. But in light of that, the other place I'm really digging it is just from a pedagogical standpoint, in a game-based learning, for example, why wouldn't we be bringing in loop, but not to where kids are buying that they don't have to take a test, but, perhaps there's other currencies, right, that are happening within a class and that, ways of just leveraging student engagement through mechanisms and levers of things that, are reminiscent of loot boxes without being predatory, I guess.
Yeah, this is definitely a topic we need to continue to have a conversation on.
Well, only because it's the same strategies that social media companies are using with the red badge when you get notifications. It's preying on those same instincts. Gambling is preying, like loot boxes are using the strategies that they've learned from the gambling industry and from the social media industries, and anything that causes an addiction that isn't like a chemical addiction is what the lessons are being learned. Like, this is where they are getting their insights from in terms of loot boxes. So it is a real problem. It's not as big a problem in the West, but in places in Asia and in Europe, we've seen like some pretty crazy kind of situations related to loot boxes and the way it's being handled. So it's definitely got to get reined in a little bit. That's for sure. So this is a super interesting conversation, though, and certainly Glen's little, I don't know if anyone caught that Glen said that he didn't necessarily think that financial literacy should be taught in school. We're going to have to dig into that a little bit too, maybe. I don't know. Did you actually say that? Did I catch that right?
Yes. I just
Cool.
don't think that it should be the first place where you're going to learn those types of things. It's like dumping everything onto schools. Really, that's what I'm talking about. It's like saying, okay, now we're going to teach about sex ed, but we're never going to teach it at the house. What's actually happening here. We're going to teach about financial literacy in schools, but because parents, they don't have enough time to go ahead and do these kinds of things. It's fine if we supplement materials, but really we as parents need to step up and really raise our kids too, and have a part in this thing, instead of saying we're going to dump all of these things onto the schools and then let them, their responsibility. And then we can always blame them. Then you can be the scapegoat. All kids these days haven't learned, whatever it might be. You can attach a million things to it. It's like, no, you haven't taught your own kids anything, if that's really where we're headed, as far as in this conversation. But that's really where I was headed.
So there we are, episode 100 in the books.
Great streak.
This is a pretty sweet streak. And hopefully when we get to episode 200, we'll do another epic dig it or ditch it episode again. Noah Geisel, thanks for joining us again for another great episode.
Hey, thank you so much for having me. And to any Jewish listeners out there, Happy New Year. It is, speaking of streaks, year 5,780 on our calendar.
There it is.
Nice.
Very good. All right, everybody. Good night.
Thanks for listening to On Education. My name is Glen Irvin. My co-host is Mike Washburn. On Education is part of the Education Podcast Network. You can listen to this show and many others by great educators like Jennifer Gonzalez, Matt Miller, and many more by visiting edupodcastnetwork.com. Want to get in touch with us? Check out our website at oneducationpodcast.com. You can tweet us at oneducationpod. Mike is at Mr. Washburn on Twitter, and I can be found at Irv Spanish. You can find us on Facebook by visiting facebook.com/oneducationpod. We're also on Instagram at oneducationpod. If you're enjoying the show and think others would too, we would be thrilled if you shared it with them. Please leave us a rating or review in Apple Podcasts or the Google Play Store. When you leave a rating, it gives our rankings a boost. This helps others discover the show. We want to thank our presenting sponsor, Classcraft, for supporting us. check out classcraft.com/oneducation to learn more about them. Thanks as always for listening, stay awesome, and see you soon.